Thank you for joining us for Real Possibilities. Today, we're going to be talking about a subject that everybody's either going through, will go through, or knows someone who is going through it, and that is caregiving. Stay tuned. I am so excited. Thank you for joining AARP Real Possibilities. We have a superstar with us today, and I am going to be talking fast because we've got a little bit of time and so much wonderful information with our guest today, Amy Goyer. Amy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you today, Paula?
I am fine, thank you. We are talking about everything related to aging and to families and to intergenerational and to caregiving. And let me just tell you, when I say Amy's a superstar, I am just not using that as a superlative. She really is. She's been on the doctor's program. She's been on Good Morning America. She's been on New York Times has featured her, NBC, Washington Post, The Early Show, The Today Show, BBC. And of course, the one and only, the most prestigious is AARP. She works with us as well. So we are so happy to have you here. And people just sometimes don't know, they think they're on a journey by themselves when they're caregivers. They don't know where to go. They don't know what kind of resources are available. They don't know that people are out there fighting and going through the same things, fighting on their behalf, but also going through some of the same issues that they're going through. You've been doing this for over 30 years, involved with caregiving in some way or another. How did you get connected? Tell us a bit about your journey, would you please?
Well, I first became a family caregiver in my 20s, Paula, for my grandparents. I grew up in Ohio, and living in Ohio, my grandparents were in Indiana, and my parents moved across the country to Arizona. So I'm the youngest of four daughters, but I was the child who was working in the field of aging. I had a degree in music therapy from Ohio University, and I was working in adult daycare centers and nursing homes, and then I worked for the Ohio Department of Aging. And so I was nearby. I wasn't married, didn't have children. That's another factor. And I began driving over to Indiana, making sure my grandparents were okay. My dad's parents, my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and my dad was an only child. So we had no family in the town where he lived. My mom's mom, we had family there, and she didn't have as involved chronic health issues. But so for my grandparents, they wanted to stay in their home, as most people do. And we did everything we could to help them do that. I got Meals on Wheels set up for them and helped my grandfather deal with my grandmother's incontinence and helped do things around the house. Plus, I put out the Christmas decorations, and the socialization and the fun part of life. But during that time, my mom had a stroke, and she was only 63. So now my dad's got his parents, he's got my mom, they're out in Arizona, and dad's still working full time as the chair of the communication department at Arizona State University. You can imagine, as a caregiver, the stress that he had at that time. So my sisters and I did our best to support my dad and help care for my mom over the years. And she was not paralyzed, but she had pain on her right side. She had aphasia. And I helped make sure she got into a good rehab program. And then over the years, different suggestions, different things. I moved to Washington, D.C. to work with AARP, and my grandparents passed away. And then my parents, as they were aging, started needing more help. Eventually, Paula, my dad developed Alzheimer's disease. Mm-hmm. And, the thing that you dread when it's in the family. And he experienced the disease differently than my grandmother. I think it was a lot because of the things that he did. He exercised. When he retired, he started working out with a trainer. He volunteered as an AARP volunteer in Arizona. So he learned lots of new things. He was a lobbyist, and he did a lot of TV interviews and things. And over the years, mom's health declined more. But when we started seeing some problems with dad, I started coming out from Washington, D.C., helping out my parents more. I had one sister who lived near them, and she had a daughter with special needs. So, we were just as a family trying to support my parents. I tended, to be more involved because of my professional background. And then in 2009, I quit my job and began coming out to Arizona more. Actually, in 2008, I started coming out to Arizona more because clearly my dad was struggling, to really handle everything with my mom. And as we wanted him to stop driving, which I know you know is a game changer for people.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. So when we wanted him to stop driving, he said, well, we're going to move into a senior community then. We're not going to be stuck in this house. So they did that. They moved into a nearby senior community, and I moved from Washington into their home here. That's where I'm sitting right now in the Chandler, Arizona area, and kept my place in DC, going back and forth, for work and traveling for work and taking care of my parents. After 3 years, they both had catastrophic health issues happen. Dad's dementia was worsening. They couldn't really be alone. And so I moved them back in the house with me. And my mom passed away a year later. My dad lived with me for 6 years, and he passed away just 4 years
Wow.
ago. Can't believe it's been 4 years. But I was
Wow.
able to keep him at home. And, my music therapy background came in handy because it's so wonderful with dementia. We had music all day long, every day, and really feel very honored and proud of the fact that I was able to fulfill my
Absolutely.
passions
Absolutely.
at home.
You've just gone through so many years, but so much of what you said, other people can absolutely identify with that. And I just want to back up just for a moment. Um, Define caregiver, because sometimes people, like what you were saying, Christmas trees, helping here, incontinence, sometimes people are caregivers. They don't even identify themselves as a caregiver. So how do you define a caregiver?
That is one of the things about telling my story that I try to get across, is that there are many different caregiving roles. My role with my mom's mom was very different than with my dad's parents. And that was very different from what I did for my parents who lived with me. I did a lot of hands-on care for them. So it's a whole range. Caregiving is a spectrum. So you may be on one end of the spectrum where you're just calling and checking in, making sure they're okay, to maybe going to the grocery store or taking somebody to a doctor's office, and helping out with transportation. Maybe you're doing the yard work for them. You might be doing housekeeping or bringing meals over. And then all the way down the spectrum to complete personal care, and which I did for my parents, dealing with incontinence, bathing, dressing, helping. In the end, I helped my dad eat, managing medications. As caregivers, we're about half doing very complicated medical nursing tasks. We all feel like we should have nursing degrees by this time, just because, it's very complex. So there really is a wide range. If you're doing any of these things, you're a caregiver.
And people sometimes, all the things that you described, people sometimes can't do all of that alone. I mean, they simply can't, whether they have their job, their work, they may not have the physical strength themselves, they may have other issues. What do you suggest? What do you recommend that people do? I mean, and yet they feel guilty, right? They don't want to put their loved one in a home or institution because, well, 89% of everyone that we've surveyed wants to age in place. They want to age in their own home here in Michigan, because that survey has shown that. What do you say to people? I mean, it's exhausting, and the guilt and the emotional toll and everything. What do you say to them?
Yeah, I always say guilt is our constant companion. That the bottom line is that we can't. Here's what I learned: I can do anything, but I cannot do everything.
Right.
And those are, I can do anything. I've done things and caregiving that I never dreamed I would do, in the hospital and at home and everywhere. But I'm one person, and there's only so many hours in the day. And I, like more than 60% of family caregivers, worked full time. And so, you have a lot to juggle. Many caregivers have children they're raising, or I was also caregiving for my sister at the same time as my parents. And she passed away a year after my mom did. And she was in Maryland. So we all have, we talk about the sandwich generation. It's like
Right.
the club sandwich generation. We all have many layers. And so we have to build a team. We have to accept help and seek help and tell people exactly what we need. And it might be that team is family, and that's generally a small part of the team, because you're going to have sometimes paid caregivers. We had paid caregivers. I had to work during the day. I had paid caregivers. I did mostly nights and weekends. When I was out of town, my sister came and I paid her to be a caregiver. And then she spent many hours also not paid, helping out. And then you have respite care programs. My dad was a veteran, and the VA was incredibly helpful with programs that we didn't have to pay for, like respite care and home health aides to come help him get out of bed and get dressed towards the end of his disease, and ramps and medical equipment, all of those things. Your support group, your caregiving support group, connecting with other caregivers is extremely helpful. That's part of your team. So, sometimes we think there's no help out there. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying it's easy. Mm-hmm. And as well I do, Paula, right. We need more help. We need more Absolutely. Programs, more help. Right. Many times people who are on Medicaid can get a lot more assistance. People in the middle income really struggle. And my family actually, my parents had gone through all their savings after my mom, 25 years after my mom had a stroke. There's a lot going on. And I went through my savings helping them. And eventually, after, more than a decade of intensive caregiving for my parents and my sister, I ended up in bankruptcy. Mm-hmm. And that is a very hard thing for me to say. It's very demoralizing and difficult and humiliating, but I'm not the only one. And family caregivers spend more than $7,000 a year of their own money. So, we struggle, as you say, to do everything. And it's costly, and we want the best for our loved ones. So, reach out to the Area Agency on Aging. That can be really helpful, and find out what services are available.
And you can please go to our website. This is one of the things that AARP always has great information on, aarp.org/MI. Look up caregiving. There's just so many resources that are available. We have a guide to caregiving that we can send people if they're interested in that. But you've talked about so much here, and it's one of the reasons too why in Michigan in particular we are advocating. You talk about the expensive side of being a caregiver. Mm-hmm. We're advocating for a tax credit for caregivers. You have to build a ramp. You have to do something special with the bathroom or the toilet or the shower, and just a $5,000 tax credit. And that's not even a lot, but it just helps to some degree. And for people go out of pocket, to pay for this. And what people fail to realize, right, Amy, is that we can save, the state of Michigan anyway, can save for every dollar they spend to send someone to an institution, they can save $2 if they let them stay in their own home with some additional resources. Institutional care is very, very expensive as well. So, there are options. We're out there fighting for those options on behalf of all the caregivers all over the world. Now, you mentioned you have a musical therapist background. Wow, wasn't that perfect for what you've gone through? Alzheimer's, dementia. I've seen some of the videos of patients who were just not haven't spoken for weeks or months, and then the music plays. So talk a little bit about music and brain health and Alzheimer's and dementia and that connection.
Right. Yeah. I began my career working in direct service as a music therapist, and it's amazing. We talk about it as being kind of magic, but it's not exactly magic. It's science. Your brain processes music differently, different parts of your brain than language, for example. So sometimes music can get through in a way that other things can't. Music can also evoke memories. Sometimes, with dementia, the short-term memories tend to go first. So music can elicit old feelings from growing up and memories. And, even towards the end of my dad's life, he could sing nursery rhymes and things like that with us, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And that was a connection. So music can be a connector. Families, I have on my YouTube channel, I have lots of videos of my dad singing together. And you can see where his face becomes very flat affect. There's not a lot of expression on his face. And many families feel like, they're gone when they're like that. But he's not gone. If you watch closely, he's right in tune with me. He harmonizes with me. He comes in right at the right time. So that music connects people. And it can also change behavior. So music was helpful just to get daddy out of bed in the morning. I would start out with calm music and then kind of gradually, get it a little more peppy to get his energy going, because waking up in the morning was not easy. And I used, he had been in the Army. And so I used military marching music to get him to walk around the house and just to exercise, because that was so deeply ingrained in him. And then I would use calming, relaxing music when he would get anxious. A lot of times with dementia, people have a great deal of anxiety and can get a little combative and problems like that. And the music would help calm him right down.
It's interesting that we've talked about music, and I know I've just been amazed at how the reaction that some people have when they hear music. And then I thought about myself. I know Thanksgiving and my whole family from all over the country comes to our house. We host Thanksgiving every year. And sometimes I'm just exhausted, right? And you turn on some music and it just changes everything. You start moving differently, you start thinking differently. It builds energy, but it's really quite a study and quite interesting what it does for the brain. And so music is another tool that people can use and play. It helps you if you're a caregiver. It even helps.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yes, that the music was also a tool for me, to help me, because it's so hard to see someone, especially with dementia, changing and struggling and suffering so much. And so, it was helping and calming for me. And I listened to music meditations as I go to sleep. And then I started playing those for my dad as well, and he slept better. So yeah, use music as a tool for your loved ones and for yourself as a caregiver.
Absolutely. And AARP is doing so much in the area of brain health. There's still hope. So don't give up hope. Don't feel as though life is over. People are living with dementia, with Alzheimer's. It's just, they might live differently, but they still have a very helpful quality of life, and living with dignity and respect. And there's the Global Council on Brain Health. Can you share a little bit about what's going on with AARP and the Global Council on Brain Health and some of the work they're doing?
Yes, AARP has put a huge emphasis on brain health and the need and a lot of resources into research and helping people understand what's happening in the brain. We are, reporting on this. You can go to aarp.org/brain health, and we have articles, new research, information. We do have some things about music in the brain there, and really working with a number of organizations in the Global Brain Health Council to raise and elevate this issue, to raise awareness, and to really try to focus more energy on research and solving this dilemma. Lately there have been some really interesting developments around Alzheimer's in terms of the research and the, going different directions and finding different things. So, as you say, don't give up hope. My dad lived to be 94, and he had a good quality of life, really, because he was loved, he was taken care of. He was always, my sister and I traded off. We were always with him. And he was home, it wasn't the quality of life we would have wanted for him, but it wasn't that he had no quality of life. He was never laying in a bed doing nothing all day.
And people need to ask for help. I mean, you mentioned that earlier too. I mean, you had a sister who supported you and helped some folks feel like they have nothing. I'll never forget the young woman who did 2 tours of duty. And we want to talk about veterans in a minute, but 2 tours of duty. We were doing a caregiving workshop, and she said every battle that she's been in, nothing has been as hard as taking care of her mother when she came home with no help. She had 11 sisters and brothers and no help from anybody. And so, everyone does, even when you have family, you don't always have help, but you have to ask for help. It may not come from your family, but like you said, the AAA Area Agency on Aging, the community resources, call us. We'll tell you what's in your neighborhood. Call or email AARP or go on our website, aarp.org. We have a resource guide for every community to find out what's in your neighborhood, what's in your community that can assist you. But you've got to ask for help. You can't go on this journey all by yourself, and otherwise you're going to need a caregiver yourself one day if you continue to do that without asking for help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I moderate AARP's Family Caregivers Discussion Group on Facebook. And it's one of the most important things I've done in my career, because we have over 11,000 family caregivers across the country, actually across the world. And we help each other with tips. You can go on there and say, I can't do this anymore. Or, I'm so angry and frustrated today. Or you can say, look what a great day we had. Mom ate all her dinner, or I learned this, or I got this help service coming to help me. So the joys and the challenges.
Right.
And a lot of problem solving. So, here's my issue, what worked for you? And then everybody will come in with their comments and share their experiences. So be sure and go to Facebook and join the group. It's AARP's Family Caregivers Discussion Group. And we learn the most from each other.
And that it is a village. I mean, so many people are going through that. And that's, again, once you give voice to this, you find out that you are not alone and that people appreciate hearing your stories and sharing the stories like you're doing today. I mean, going from taking care of your loved ones and your family and your grandparents and filing bankruptcy. And now look at you, you're all over. I mean, you're on every news show out there talking about this. So it's a journey, and we just appreciate people lifting their voice and sharing information. I want to talk a little bit about veterans too, because that's another spot that's near and dear to our heart. And we only got like a minute left. So veterans and the resources that are available to them, can you, about the minute or so we have left, just tell folks a little bit about veterans and caregiving, what's available?
AARP has a lot of emphasis around veteran and military families, and we have developed some resources for veteran and military family caregivers. The first thing you can do too, though, is to contact the Veterans Affairs Caregiver Support Program. And it's caregiver.va.gov. Go to their website. There's a toll-free number you can call. They can help walk you through what your loved one might be eligible for. AARP has a caregiving resource guides. If you go to aarp.org/prepare-to-care, you'll find the regular English version, but we also have a veteran and military version, and goes into some more of the benefits and the supports and things that are specifically available for veterans. I don't hesitate. If my dad never availed himself of his veterans benefits once he got out of the Army after the Korean War, and he had served in World War II also. And many of us, that's the case. We don't realize our loved ones. We don't connect it with them. And I knew that he could get some supports through the VA. And in the end, he got aid and attendance benefits, which was the cash assistance that helped. And we got, as I mentioned previously, so much care, in-home care. He had in-home primary-based care where they came to the house, the nurse, the doctor, the nurse practitioner. And it was just really a game changer once we got that going.
That's excellent. And again, just ask for information. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. You see the website at the bottom of the screen. But more importantly than anything else, just know that you are not alone, that there's help and there's support for you. And join the Facebook group.
Yeah.
11,000 people are to talk with about. I mean, you can just go in there and scream. So sometimes it helps to scream. Thank you so much. And we appreciate you, Amy. We appreciate all that you do. We appreciate the journey that you've been on and how you are so open and willing to share your ups and your downs and your challenges with all of us. It is making a difference in the lives of so many people. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And please be sure to visit aarp.org/caregiving, where you'll find all of these resources.
Thank you. And thank you for watching AARP Real Possibilities. Have a good day.
One of the things that AARP members talk about all the time is Social Security. How much do I get? How do I know when to take it? What's your advice?
My advice is that it depends. It depends on each individual, right, and each individual situations. In general, we think that the socialsecurity.gov, so SSA.gov's website, is an excellent source of information. There, if you haven't developed your login credentials, you should, and then you would have visibility of the projections for your Social Security benefits. With all of this, it might be overwhelming to look at, where Social Security fits into your individual situation. We recommend, obviously, you seek advice through a financial planner. And we also would like to promote, the AARP site, because it is a wealth of information on there as well. You guys have done an excellent job.
Thank you for that. And people just don't know. I mean, everybody's different, so there's not a cookie cutter answer for everyone on that.
That's right. There isn't. And I would have to say in my career, I've probably gone through probably 16, 17 different iterations for clients of what makes sense for clients. When to take Social Security, is it at 62, 66, 67, 70 or beyond? But it is an important question as you build a lot of benefit through time, working and whatnot through your Social Security.
And Social Security plus savings.
Right.
Social Security probably will not be enough. So
right, and that's one thing to realize is Social Security was never meant to be
enough, just to
enough.
subsidize.
Right.
Yeah, good advice. Thank you. Appreciate you being here.
You're welcome.
I'm joined with nurse practitioner Marie, and we're going to talk about a very common topic, obesity. Well, Marie, What about it?
Yeah, so in my nursing practice and now as a nurse practitioner, one thing I have observed is that obesity, it's a big factor in that contributes to poor health in a lot of our patients. So I'm a big advocate on trying to keep a healthy weight as much as possible and to avoid complications, to our patients' health. So.
Now, a lot of people say, well, that's all and good, but who do I talk to about this, or how do I lose weight? Just by eating less hasn't helped me.
So there is a lot available nowadays on, social media platforms, on, television. But I think at the basic level, every person should at least approach their primary care practitioner to inquire about, healthy, proven ways to, to maintain a healthy weight if they have that need. On their own, nutrition, basic nutrition, eating more veggies, more healthy proteins can also help us, in that goal. So.
Gotcha. Now, there's a term that not a lot of people have heard before, and it's called healthy overweight. What is that?
So healthy overweight, the way I understand it, but I'm no means like a super expert about it, about this, is that it's refers to those who fall in that category of being overweight but have no current health issues. That's how I would qualify this. So, I mean, it's great if you don't have any health issues, at present, but overall, I think it should be in every person's best interest to still strive to kind of live in the healthy weight category, because should something happen, as I've seen many times, when someone gets very sick, the weight becomes the first obstacle in getting better. So being healthy and with a higher weight, it's fine. But if something was to happen, things could escalate really quickly.
All right. So from what I'm understanding is we should be talking to our primary cares about maintaining a healthy weight.
Yes.
As far as we come in all shapes and sizes, so not everybody's going to be super thin.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people will be a little larger, and that can be healthy too.
Yes.
And we should be talking to our primary cares about that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. And there is a lot of things that we can do with our diet and exercise, but sometimes that's not going to be enough, and our primary care might be able to help us with other options for losing or maintaining a good weight.
That's correct. Yeah, they have additional resources for every patient. Dietitians, are very helpful, and usually after you see your primary care, that's usually the first step in maintaining a healthy weight is seeing a dietitian and learning what to eat and how to eat healthy.
All right, that's very good advice. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you.
There's so much information that we share with you today. If you have questions, please visit our website, aarp.org/MI. Thank you for watching Real Possibilities.